Welcome to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And today on this episode, we're going to talk about feeling secure when you're apart. And I'm kind of laughing at myself because that was unintentionally kind of rhyming. Feeling secure when you're apart. All right, let's just talk about who this episode is really for. So, I'm going to cover a couple of different areas that I think this really applies to. So, whether you are long distance, you can feel apart with that, or maybe you're in a situation where they're going out of town, or you are getting back from a trip and they're leaving, something like that. Or maybe this might even feel like if you're feeling emotionally apart, like maybe there's just been a riff or maybe even a fight and you're feeling like there's just some distance. All right. So if any of those are the situation that you're in, then this is the episode for you. Let's talk about it. And if you're new here, my name is Claire. I'm a relationship coach. I love serving overachieving, high-performing, perfectionistic girlies who are slaying in their careers, whether you're climbing the corporate ladder, you are an academic, or maybe you're just slaying in the street, like you got street skills. And I've got clients who are in medical school, doctors, or you might even have like lots of real estate, or you're kind of hustling like that. And I even have a mom. So there are many ways that we can be successful in life. It doesn't have to look a certain way. And you might be sucking at your relationship, whether that is you feel like you have a lot of needs and they're emotionally distant, aka avoidant, then you are in the right spot, honey. So if you're enjoying this podcast episode or any of the episodes, hitting the 5-star review on Spotify or Apple, you guys are a little behind. It's like feeling a high five. I feel that high five when you hit that 5-star review. It takes 2 seconds and we're doing it. I love just each week I just check it and it's incredible. So thank you for doing that. Okay. So feeling secure when you're apart. And I have just, when I tell my clients and I tell my community, the Healing Girl Gang, how I really get it, there isn't one thing, literally. There is nothing that you could send me in a DM or tell me around anxious attachment that I have not done, okay? I will just admit I have done some weird stuff, right? It's all out myself. And when I met my husband, and if you're really new, I was used to be anxiously attached. He was avoidant, and now we have an earned secure marriage. We actually lived apart. So it wasn't like I could just pop over on a random Tuesday and like watch a movie. No, that was not happening for us. So I lived in Denver Metro, at the very bottom of Denver Metro, and he lived in Boulder. So that is probably, if you are in the Denver Metro area or know anything about Denver, it is not close, okay? So I would say if it was like 5 o'clock in the morning or like midnight, you could get there in 55 minutes, maybe. But typically with just normal Denver traffic, it took about at least an hour. Usually we're talking 75 minutes. So that being said, I had a lot of experience feeling this riff and feeling the actual distance of being apart. So, and on top of that, we were working through our own emotional stuff and our own attachment styles. And honestly, looking back, I can and will say wholeheartedly, I'm really grateful for that time and that we were distant and we didn't have that close proximity for a couple of reasons. And so if you're not feeling secure because you are long distance or you're apart, distance and not being in each other's lives consistently, especially when you're first dating, is really a blessing. Because, hello, anxious attachment, we want to move fast. We want things to move really, really fast. We want to get there. Okay, first date. What about the second date? Okay, second date. When are we going to be official? Okay, we're official. Like, how do I know that because I used to think that. And it's very normal for us to want to speed things up. And so inherently in that distance, and being distant and being apart, we actually got closer because we were able to take things slower. It naturally slowed my own desire and my own ego. Ego often will tell us that there's this false sense of urgency to speed up. So I'm really grateful that we took that time and we were distant, because it allowed us to get closer because of that distance, because we took our time. So one of the things that I also was just reflecting on before I got here to record was that one of the things that I used to do in the past that was really detrimental, just like looking back, hindsight's 2020, was really problematic, would be I would put all the focus on the guy. That's just that was a really gnarly bad habit. I'm talking my most toxic relationship. I was always going to his house. I was involved in his community. His friends became my friends. I really centered my whole life, and what I was putting my energy towards, my focus on, was around that person and that relationship. And what happened was I lost myself. I was in that process of focusing and centering on that person. I was losing myself. And when we start to lose ourselves and our energy is going outward, it is normal. It is to be expected that we start to feel wobbly. We start to feel drained. We start to feel unsure. And that was just a really, really bad habit. I learned some hard lessons from that. That's probably another podcast. And so when it came to understanding my then boyfriend, now husband, that distance, it really taught me something that I had to learn. It took us, gosh, we've been together for 8 years now, but we were in that just dating phase for about 2 or 3 years. And what it taught me, that distance inherently did, was how to maintain the sense of love and connection, even though we weren't seeing each other every day. It really taught me that. And in that process, I was able to learn how to hold myself, how to build self-trust, how to hold my emotions. That doesn't mean I didn't communicate them. That's been a whole process in itself. But really learning that, okay, like it's I will see him on a Wednesday. We used to see each other sometimes midweek. And usually on the weekends, like I can hold myself. And in that, I was learning how to grow a muscle of creating that stability when there was this natural ebb and flow of distance in our relationship. And it took me a long time. And when I teach how I did this, it's much more accelerated, because really there are really simple things that I did in order to maintain that stability. And a lot of that had to do with building my sense of self, building this a healthy relationship with my emotions and my awarenesses and what was conscious for me. And these are all really simple tools, but they're not always easy. And I say that because it took me a long time to really learn the tools on my own. And when we have support, and that's what I had to do, I had to get support. I had my own coaches, I had my own spiritual community. And really, when you learn the tools, that's what accelerates it faster. So really learning how to feel secure when you're apart is about developing that trust that you are going to see them, that the next good thing is around the corner. And it's also natural for our brain, if we have a history of instability or reactivity in past relationships, and I'm not talking about boyfriends or anything like that, I'm talking from our past, that we tend to focus on the gap. We tend to focus on what's not there. And so it really takes a lot of just diving into the subconscious, I'll be honest, to understand and to bolster and strengthen that muscle of feeling stable and secure when you're not together. So that's what I've learned. And this actually ties into the question, the Q&A. And if you are newer or have listened to the podcast and maybe you took a break and you came back, I started doing a hotline in my community, the Healing Girl Gang. That is just like mwah, my chef's kiss, favorite thing in the whole wide world right now, which is my community where we do trainings to heal your anxious attachment, how to feel more secure. We dive into topics like how to stop overthinking and overanalyzing. This month is about self-trust. So very apt for this topic. And uh, we vote on all the participants in the community vote on whose question to answer. And this just like never surprises me because I don't look at the questions. I want to just kind of be off the cuff. And of course, this question to me really relates to the topic today about feeling secure when you're apart. So Kristen asks, how do I shift my focus to myself? I want to have main character energy and embrace myself first. What are the tips and strategies? I feel like I need an elastic on my wrist to snap every time I think of him first or how our relationship is going. So literally, this to me just is so on par with what we're talking about today. And so I think I want to give you the simple answer right away. And how do you shift your focus to yourself? And that is choice. We choose, right? And this is, I kind of feel like this is the same like energy when people ask, well, how do I know that I'm ready? And ready is not a feeling, it's a choice. And so shifting your focus to yourself is a choice. And I think what I'm even just saying that out loud, with relating how, oh, I have to feel like I'm ready, or when I'm ready to put the focus on myself, like I'll have this some internal feeling. No. It's choice, it's decision. When you make the decision to focus on yourself, that's where you then can put the energy, the choices, the actions, the behavior, all of that is linked into creating what you want to experience in the now. So how you shift your focus is by choosing and creating consciousness about when you are kind of subconsciously making choices to center them into your life. So for example, when my husband and I first started dating, I can't remember because I think all right. So I started doing this 500-hour teacher training, and this was probably in 2018, 2019. And I do remember I graduated when Murdoch was a puppy. I was laughing like, how do you tell time? Like, my dog is 5 years old. My whole world is my dog. So that means that while we were dating, I was in a yoga teacher training where I would go into the mountains with my community, my yoga community, and learn from my teacher who happened to live, luckily, in Colorado at the time. And I actually remember feeling like, oh, I don't know, we are dating and we hadn't moved in together yet. So I remember it felt really edgy for me to make this decision to go to a yoga teacher training where I had to spend essentially 3 days away on the times and on the weekends where we would be seeing each other. So this is, I totally understand, like, how do I shift the focus to myself? What I know about my relationship with yoga, and especially at that chapter of my life, yoga was my passion. And my husband was also really big into soccer. I was really big into yoga. And the mistake that I had learned from, this is how we gain wisdom. And when it comes to how do I shift my focus to myself, you have to use your wisdom. Wisdom is gained from past experience, right? So that you can use your wisdom to choose differently. So I made a conscious decision that my teacher, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't know how long she'll live here. I want to get training specifically from this teacher. I'm going to do it. And so I consciously made a choice for myself to focus on myself. It didn't just happen. It wasn't like it fell out of the sky. Well, kind of. I mean, I don't know how I'm a very powerful manifester, so maybe I did manifest her being in my home state at the time. But I really consciously made a choice. And I made this decision really trusting in myself. It was a gamble, by the way. At that time, my self-trust was still very shaky. I was learning how to build it. But I made a conscious choice. I was going to make the decision to focus on myself, and I was going to make that decision right. And it worked out because not only do I have a 500-hour yoga teacher training, which is like one of the highest you can go, but I now have an amazing husband. And I really, every time that I've focused on myself, and I've made that clear decision. That's the tip, period. Make the decision, choose yourself, that it's paid off for me. And I've been able to see and I've been able to stretch over time, growing that trust in myself and that belief that I'm going to be okay no matter what. That I'm going to go to this yoga teacher training, and if he is there and like ready for me with open arms, then that's meant to be. And if it's not, then see you later, sucker. So that's really it. And of course, that is the simple way of seeing it, is that it's a decision, but how we make decisions, how our current state of wisdom is informed by our past. It's informed by how we've made those choices before. So I am teaching a self-trust masterclass, how to retrain your brain to have radical self-trust, that is coming up in the Healing Girl Gang. I'll put the link in the show notes for you to check it out. And if you're listening to this in the far future, that maybe this class has happened, then the shop is coming. It's not open yet, but it will be coming, so that you can look at past master classes and join them and watch them and have all the fun. Okay? All right, angels, I believe in you. You can feel secure. Mwah.